Welcome to Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast where we dive into strategies that drive real business growth. I'm your host, Kerry Curran, and this episode is The Power of Authenticity, Unlocking Business Growth Through Trust and Transparency. Today, I'm joined by Bob Cargill, marketing industry veteran, adjunct professor, social media consultant, and public speaker. Bob shares his journey from starting as a copywriter in New York City to becoming an influential marketing consultant, educator, and speaker. With a deep passion for social media, Bob discusses the transformative shifts in marketing, the importance of storytelling, and the role of transparency in building trust with today's savvy consumers. So join us to hear Bob and I discuss social media, empowering employees as brand advocates, and embracing AI while staying true to the human side of marketing. And welcome, Bob. Thank you for joining us. And please introduce yourself and tell us about your extensive background in the space.
Thank you, Kerry. It's a great opportunity to be here on your podcast. I appreciate the invite. So, yeah, I have 40 plus years in marketing. So that, how much time do you have? But I started as a copywriter back in the early 80s in New York City at RCA Direct Marketing, and have stayed in the marketing field my whole career, but have had a lot of different jobs. I wrote a book, I think you know, called 20 Jobs, 20 Lessons. But I've been a copywriter, a creative director, or a director of social media, had my own business in the 90s. And in 2017, I left the corporate world to freelance, to contract, to consult, and ended up doing more teaching than any of the above. And so teaching's become almost my full-time gig lately. But I've been president of NEDMA, New England Direct Marketing Association, president of American Marketing Association Boston, do a lot of speaking, consulting, writing, and social media, of course. So I hope that's a fairly good summary, not too long, not too short. Wanted to get quite a few of the details in there.
Yeah. No, excellent. And we're lucky to have you, and I'm grateful for you to share your expertise today. So as you mentioned, you've been in the space for a few years. So talk a bit about some of the biggest points of evolution that you've seen over the years, or how marketing is really changed and advertising has changed.
It's changed immensely, and I think most of us in the business get it, know that there's been transformative changes. I mean, earth-shattering, not literally, but to get the point across. I have, again, half of my career was before the internet. The second half, obviously, since the internet and social media, and that was the biggest change. Obviously, is when the internet emerged in the late 90s. But we call it performance marketing now. I think it was direct marketing back in the day. And I was working on lots of direct mail. In my book, I call it junk mail on the title page, on the cover, not to disparage direct mail, but because I think a lot of people get it when I say junk mail. That was the big thing back in the day. Yeah. Print, direct mail, and then email once the internet came around, and then social media. But one big thing is it's more level playing field, meaning the consumer is almost in control, and it's more of a conversation. It's not the one-way, top-down, interruptive type marketing. It's more two-way, and that was a big change for marketers, advertisers, 20 years ago. But honestly, to this day, a lot of them still haven't totally adapted and gotten that point.
Yeah, no, it's great. And it sounds, the medium has changed. The importance of storytelling has really kind of stayed the same. You've talked a bit about that, how the importance of telling your brand story and representing the brand throughout all of the channels.
Yeah, so all that said, seismic change in how we market, how we advertise due to the internet, due to social media. Despite that huge change, I think marketing has gotten much more exciting and much
Yeah.
more engaging, challenging, yes, but we have more opportunities than ever to converse. And I say conversation with the customer, to tell stories. I'll give you a quick
Mhm.
example, and it does show my age. In my taste in music, classic rock, REO Speedwagon. You might know that band, Kerry, maybe.
Yeah, of course. Yep.
But
Mhm.
do you know the lead singer, Kevin Cronin, the lead singer of REO Speedwagon? They are still touring, and
Yeah.
I am personally a classic rock fan, a music fan. Concerts I love going to, and I saw them way back in the day, and I saw him last summer at the Boston Garden. He performed solo with a few other artists, and I follow him on social media. I should say them, but
Mhm.
he's their spokesperson, and he tells stories regularly about where they are playing in concert, about the town, the city, about their travels, about his family life. That's how you
Yeah.
do it. You tell stories so that
Yep.
people get to know you as a brand or a business. In his case, as a rock star.
Yeah. No, that's so true. It's because we keep talking about building that audience relationship, that customer relationship, and in storytelling, and that's a great example of doing it because he's going to stay in top of mind. REO Speedwagon will stay top of mind. You know, your next time you're like on your Apple playlist and what should I listen to, or um, Spotify, it keeps him top of mind. And I think that's an area we've talked about where social gives that platform for brands to build those relationships. So I know you talked about how social gives the opportunity to kind of connect better and dig deeper into customer connections. You want to talk a bit about that?
Well, again, he's a good example. They are a good example. But that said, so there are more opportunities, but I think I mentioned it is
Yeah.
challenging as well. So you
Yeah.
have to be on, virtually 24/7, and I don't mean literally, but as often as possible, a brand business
Mhm.
to stay top of mind, out of sight, out of
Yeah.
mind, and because there's so much attention, so much competition for attention.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
have to shout it louder than ever from the rooftops. We have to be ubiquitous. We have to be
Mhm.
frequent in our communications and spread ourselves thin to a degree because our audience
Yeah.
is scattered. Sure, once we find where our
Mhm.
audience for the most part hangs out, that's where we focus. But sometimes we don't know, and sometimes they're moving targets. So yeah, it's more important than ever to be telling your stories, sharing your brand, and promoting your business, your products, your
Yeah.
services, etc.
Right, definitely. And I know you're very passionate about sharing your activities, especially your teaching and your book across your social profile. I think what are you, the selfie king? um, but like talk about the importance and the impact that has, or for brands that want to kind of follow suit.
Well, brands. Could you repeat the tail end of that question, Kerry? Brands that want to
Sure.
what?
Just why that's so important to incorporate kind of the sharing your content and your brand, helping build that within the corporate culture, or sharing that storytelling for brands.
Yes, exactly. So like I say, there's a lot of competition for attention, for eyeballs, for
Mhm.
for people's time, because people are busier than ever, and people have more choices, more options than ever in terms of
Mhm.
what to do with their time. So the more conspicuous you are in your presence, the better, and you're putting yourself out there across social media, but also obviously in person events, et cetera, et cetera,
Mhm.
and people get to know you. So back in the day, early in my career, there was someone by the name of Walter Cronkite. You may know the name
Mhm.
and
Of course.
remember,
Yep.
and he was an anchor person. He was
Mhm.
listened to and tuned into daily by
Yeah.
television viewers. we had few sources for our news, for our information. I'm using him as an example. He was referred to as the most trusted man in America. So I joke, but there's not a lot of people you can trust nowadays. I joke.
Yeah.
So the way you earn trust, marketers, brands,
Yeah.
businesses, advertisers know the customer has to trust you. And I said earlier, the customer's in charge. So you have to yield to your audience and make sure you are there for them. That not your be transparent. Be who you are on a daily basis. They get to know you. They get to trust you. The more likely they'll be to buy from you when the opportunity arises.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's a brilliant recommendation. And I know you've talked a bit about when building for brands, building trust, that the employees, especially the CEO, like should be involved in that. So talk a bit about kind of your recommendation for making that part of the corporate culture so that employees are sharing the brand message and living the brand message that they're sharing online.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot. So it's top down in terms of how
Yeah.
culture generally. I mean, I had a lot of jobs, and I've
Yeah.
worked at a lot of agencies and on the client side. And in working at those agencies, worked with hundreds of clients. So I've seen
Yeah.
business inside and out, and I've consulted to businesses with regard to social media. The C-suite, if you will, senior level people have to understand it, get it, support it in order to have that corporate culture trickle down appropriately. And the corporate culture has to be a more open, inclusive, supportive, empowering environment. And then your employees can advocate for you on behalf of the brand, on behalf of the business, the products, the services. So you educate them, you arm them with the tools, the techniques, the strategies, and allow them, if not encourage and even reward them for putting
Right.
themselves out there on behalf of their employer. So their voices exponentially increase the reach of what your company, the C-suite, this is what they believe in, get the word out, branding, marketing, sales,
Yeah.
boom.
Yeah. Yeah. And liberating your employees to be influencers for your company, using their audiences to share when they're passionate about it in an authentic way. I
I
think
love
that's
that
a
word, liberate. Yes, exactly.
yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
the 1980s anymore. Sorry, our old marketing ways can't come to the phone. Neither can the way we manage, and
Right.
it's so important to have that corporate culture that's like I say, inclusive, empowering, such that everyone believes they have a piece of the business, whether they do or don't.
Right, right. No, it's definitely, your employees should be the face of your organization as well, and especially the leadership. So, talk a bit about, that as evolution comes, AI has become a big part of social and content strategies. Like, what are you hearing or recommending to the students and marketers that are asking about how to incorporate AI?
Yeah, artificial intelligence we can't ignore, and what I've seen already is almost people like they look the other way when social media emerged, and back further, the internet in general. We can't bury our heads in the sand and poo-poo it and run away from it. We have to embrace it. And so I mentioned teaching's a big thing of mine. I teach at 3 different universities in Boston, Mass College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences, Northeastern University, and Suffolk University. Love, love, love what I do. And AI is something that I try to incorporate into my teaching, because my teaching is social media marketing, digital era
Yeah.
skills, and we can't say this is not a reality. It clearly is. All that said, I don't believe in automating everything. I do not believe in relying on AI, but I do believe in knowing how to use it, because the
Right.
people who are afraid of their jobs don't have to be afraid if they know how to use AI. AI is not going to replace them. It's going to replace people who don't know how to use AI. You need to at least
Yeah.
understand it, know how to use it, because it's probably going to be part of your job some way, somehow, in many cases.
Right, right. And so if it's there to build efficiency, but I agree, you need that human part of it. I already see in social posts and see it called out in other social posts when it's very clear that what the content people are sharing has been just completely cut and paste from
Boom,
ChatGPT.
Kerry. And what I've heard,
Yeah.
and I believe strongly, other people have said it, so I'm not saying I own this statement, but the more personable, the more personal we can be as brands and businesses, as individuals, probably the better going forward. It's always been important, but in order to stand out among that clutter of generic content that's being put out there, thanks to people knowing how to use AI so well, they're automating. And what separates, obviously, the human content from machine generated content is our personality, is, not just a pulse. We need to show we have a personality as brands.
Yeah. No, it goes back to your original point of authenticity and being true to the brand and the voice, and not an automated machine. So I definitely agree with that.
This podcast is brought to you by Break Room Labs. Break Room Lab gummies for energy and focus feature an optimized blend of low caffeine, vitamin B12, and nootropics to refresh your mind and body in as little as 5 minutes. Low sugar, tasty, and convenient. Get 20% off when you visit breakroomlabs.com.
So I know, to put you on the spot a bit, what are your students asking or talking about when they join your class? Like, why do they say why they're interested in marketing, or what are some of the common themes that they're asking?
That's a great question, Kerry. And I have to think a moment, but my wheels are always turning. They want to know, so they know social media. They have a general impression of marketing and advertising, but obviously not the inner workings of like an agency, or what kind of jobs to get in the field, all the different jobs that are available. So I try to give them a lot of real world examples of brands and businesses. What is an advertising campaign? What goes into it? And again, the size and scope of the team that works behind the scenes, because again, I was a copywriter back in the day, but that's just one small, frankly, role on the team.
Yeah.
And that was minus all the technology. You can go into marketing now and just be behind the scenes with the analytics and knowing the tools. And then there's people in front of the camera, that there are still writers. We haven't all been replaced by Chat GPT yet. So, practical skills and knowing, they all know TikTok, but do they know how to use it for business? They, are, frankly, a lot of them are a little reluctant to put themselves on camera. And so I do stress presentations and video and getting behind a microphone, because basic communication skills are still more important than ever.
No, I agree. No, thank you. I appreciate that answer, because it's, they're our future teams, once they're out of college. So just curious what they're thinking about.
Yes.
And great. And so, again, I know you've worked with a lot of brands and have a ton of depth of experience, but what's kind of your, a key tip that you share for brands that want to be successful today?
Well, I may have already included it, but I don't know if I use this word. I think I used this word once. Transparency. Don't try to flim flam. There's an old school term that a lot of the younger folks wouldn't know, but don't try to fool people. Don't try to pull the wool over people's eyes, because again, consumers are very, very savvy, and especially the younger generation. So keep it real, and frankly, the more real, the better. And frankly, that's in the long run easier. I think the less staged, the less choreographed, the less produced something is, the more believable it is. So find a voice, and ideally voices, at your company, and unleash them, empower them, and don't think anybody has to be perfect, because in this day and age, everything's moving so fast. My wife knows I use this term all the time. I say it's just a blip, because our attention spans are short. We don't remember a lot because we have so much coming at us. So it's really putting yourselves out there as real people, and that's most believable, most trusted, and it's easier than ever in this day and age because there's so much we don't trust and can't believe. So just be nice.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. And it's so true. Be authentic, be transparent and honest. I think that's, to your point. It's
Dale Carnegie years ago, way back, before my time even, wrote a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And that, again, with all this technology, you still have to know how to do that. Leverage technology in order to win friends and influence people. But that winning friends and influencing people is the human side of the brand. It's who we are as people, and people do business with people.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the relationships that always comes down to. So agree. Well, thank you, Bob. This was tremendous. I always appreciate your insight and advice. So thank you so much for sharing that with us today. And thank you for joining us.
Kerry, thank you so much for the invite, the opportunity. It's been great to chat with you today.
Thank you. You too. Thanks. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast. If you need help with unlocking business growth, visit our website, revenuebasedmarketing.com. Our next episode is The Art of Selling Math to English Majors. Strategies for building trust between sales and marketing for revenue growth. Be sure to subscribe to Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast, for more strategies to skyrocket your company's growth.